Be the Talk, episode 302, featuring Karen Salmansohn. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Karen Salmansohn. Karen, are you ready to talk?
I am ready.
Karen Salmansohn is a best-selling author and award-winning designer with over 1 million books sold. She's known for creating self-help for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing self-help, because Karen merges psychological with feisty humor and stylish design. Karen Salmansohn, welcome to the talk.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Your talk is called Fun is a High-Performance Fuel. And I love what you're talking about in the talk. You talk about really presenteeism as a bigger issue for employers than issues. And you start it all off with this heat wave and nobody coming up to the bar. So you put on a bathing suit, got the drinks, got the clipboard, and took orders from inside the pool where the people are. Kudos for your inventiveness and your flexibility, and really teaching all of us the lesson learned that we need to work more fun hours for business success instead of just working more hours. And obviously that goes right into the talk. Karen, please take us behind the talk.
So the story, do you want me to tell my swimming cocktail waitress story?
Well, they can see that on the talk. We're going to give them the link, but I'd love just a kind of a big picture view of that whole talk, because that's we want to go behind the scenes of the talk.
The same things that are all my life. I feel like humor and fun have brought me like so much in life. And my mother tells a story of when I first learned to walk, that she said that my brother learned sooner than me, but he kept giving up and he kept giving up. And then I just one day I said, okay, to myself, today will be the day I'm going to walk. I mean, is how it looked to her. So I got up one day and I started to walk across the living room, and I fell down on my little diaper tush and I giggled. And then I immediately picked myself up, took a couple more steps, fell down and giggled. So I kept doing this. And she said I learned to walk in one day. I don't know if this is family folklore or whatever. Wow. But I love this story because it's about how I laugh at things and it keeps me moving forward. And I always found myself telling stories with humor, like bad things that happened. I was reporting them back to friends as a funny story. And just always trying to find the humor in the stresses in my life. And it's helped me. And so when I was a kid, I used to love to read Psychology Today and Mad Magazine. And I joke that if you took my books, if you took Psychology Today and Mad Magazine and put them in a blender, you would get my books.
Now there are a lot of listeners who are going to want your magazine or want your book now, since you described Mad Magazine and Psychology Today.
But I feel people learn better when things are funny. That's what I'll tell you. A lot of people actually love to get their news from the funny people like Colbert and, Jon Stewart when he was big, or Noah, Trevor now, because a spoonful of humor helps the world news go down. And you can even learn it. You retain it better. There are studies that show that people can actually learn about world news better from a funny reporter of it than a serious reporter of it. I mean, the studies go on, and I definitely peppered up my talk with a lot of research. So it's not just me feeling I think I retain it better when I hear it from Colbert. But no, it's true. And it's because of how the brain works. A relaxed brain sponges it up, and that people, it's in the TED Talk, but I'll repeat it, people have a harder time learning when their brain is stressed and they're in stress mode. And so the more relaxed and even better, the more playful you feel, the better you learn.
Well, and we know that's a fact, and we know that that there are different states that you can get into, and you get into that playful, relaxed, fun state, and it's almost like the genius brain comes out. And it's a powerful thing. And that's what I love about the way you're describing, in your bio, in the way you describe your book and in the mashup, all of that stuff, as well as the story at the beginning of the talk that people can watch about how you went to where the fish were, the human fish in the pool during the heat wave. I think that's a real key for the day.
I was joking.
You were joking. So you weren't even trying to be a smart business waitress.
Some of my book ideas have come to me as a joke. I'm like, it would be funny if, and then I'm like, oh wait, I think I'll turn that into a book, so it's like sometimes when you're in that frame of mind, and when I've been working with people, sometimes we'll just be laughing, and then I'll be like, oh wait, we forgot to work. And we come up with our best ideas after we have that kind of like foreplay of like laughing and joking. Then we come up with our best ideas.
My word. Well, I mean, I always think about people in very kind of serious occupations, people, doctors or police officers or, firefighter people that they have no margin of error. I mean, what's the tagline for them? What can even people like that do to be playful in their life, to be able to have the benefit of having a relaxed mind, even when they're always in a crisis? You ever think about that, Karen? It's kind of out of nowhere, but
work better. It's funny. I'm thinking about some of the professionals that I've hired in my life. I had dental work done recently, dental surgery, and my guy is hilarious. And I liked him because he was that way. And he's also known for being one of the best dental surgeons in New York. And I actually said, I liked him. So I said, I'm going to sneak you into a book that I was writing, a longevity book called Life is Long, because I found some research that says that the better you take care of your teeth and you brush and you floss, it actually helps like prevent heart disease, because bacteria from your gums and everything can get into your body. So I wanted to interview him because I like him. And he said something funny immediately. He's like, be true to your teeth or they'll be false to you. And it's like, he's just like this. But I feel funny people are really smart. And I'm like, okay, I want the funny guy to do my dental. Yeah. And he has a reputation for being one of the best. So I would say that, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I do think that there's a correlation. If you're able to find the humor, I think there's a level of intelligence that goes with that, and calm, that you kind of feel like he relaxes you. And the whole thing went better because of that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I felt it did.
It helps to be smart, and it helps to be funny. And we've been enjoying this conversation with Karen Salmansohn. Her talk is called Fun is a High Performance Fuel. And we're pivoting over to you, Talk Universe. In just a moment, we're going to start the Blitz Round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And it's time for the Blitz Round with Karen Salmansohn. I'm going to ask her a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Karen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. Were you invited to speak, or did you apply?
I had a friend who was invited to speak. She got nervous, and she asked me if I wanted to take her place.
And did they let you do that? That's amazing.
Did. Yeah.
That's a little surprising. So
I didn't apply. It just kind of landed in my lap. I'm like, okay.
I think that's a first. That's the first I've heard. Well, congratulations. All right. Next question. Are you a memorizer, improviser, or blender?
Blender.
How does that serve you?
Yeah, blender for sure. Yeah.
How does that work for you?
I like to ad lib. I like to know where I'm going. I'm kind of both logical and creative. Like there's a method to so I definitely need a structure for sure. Otherwise I won't feel safe. But once I feel safe with the structure, then I can kind of let myself go off and then come back again.
Karen, what's a tip, tool, or technique that helped you?
Well, I made sure the slides, had enough words on them, so they kept me kind of like knowing anchored where I was going next. And then I memorized like at least 5 points that I knew I had to hit. So in case I went too wacky, I could just know my 5 points and get back on track.
And again, you were basically substituted in. How much time did you actually have before that happened?
I remember the night before the hotel room going, okay, all right.
But not much time. Yeah. I mean, did you have a month? Did you have 2 weeks? I mean, this is interesting.
I had a couple of weeks.
You had a couple. That's not a lot of time. So what you did actually makes a lot of sense if you only had 2 weeks. Which is
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. So, okay. Well, great. What was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
The slide where I say that when you're nervous, you lose 80% of your ability to think and you can stumble on your words. I wound up on that slide exactly stumbling on my words, which almost looked like I did it on purpose just so I could reference it. But the slide was about that. And that's exactly what I did. I kind of like, and then I just, owned it. I'm like, yeah, well, this is an example of that.
Well, that's a little extra meta for you right there, because you're thinking of it and you got all those words on the slide, which is not necessarily the best practice unless you get swapped in from your friend. Your friend taps you in, and two weeks later you have this talk, which is kind of a first. I haven't heard that. I've actually coached people that have very short amount of time. So I've never heard of someone that tapped in a friend. Now it helps that you're a mega best-selling author, so I'm sure that does not hurt as well. But to do it that way, that's very, very interesting. Right there. So, what was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out for time?
I think I had a lot more research. I just remember I wanted, in a general way, it was hard for me because I write books, I write long books. So to narrow it down to that amount of minutes, I think it was just overall, I also like to joke around, and I wanted to make sure that I put in enough research. I probably would have joked more in it, if I had longer time.
Well,
made it more funny and fun. But I did try to slip it in.
Yeah. Well, and kudos to you for putting in the research, because a lot of time, humor, like we started the interview, humor is great, and it needs to be counterbalanced so that people don't suspect that it's kind of a one-trick pony kind of thing. If you can put real relevant research in there and let people know there's a real basis for what you're taught, why you're up there instead of them, given the TED Talk, that really helps put people at ease.
Yeah.
So where did you go to research, and why was that? What was your methodology for that?
Well, this was a topic that was on my mind. I also like to give talks at companies. And so it was something I had already been talking about with companies, presenteeism and absenteeism, and helping. There was a statistic, 85% of people hate meetings. So how do you make meetings more fun? So I'd already been, talking about this, and it was much longer. That's part of it. I was like, giving hour-long seminars and stuff like this. So to shrink it down to, TED Talk length was a little bit tough.
Well, we've been enjoying this Blitz round with Karen Salmansohn. Her talk is called Fun is a High-Performance Fuel. And you can hear us touching on all of the aspects of the fun, the high performance, the fuel, all of that stuff. Now, we want you to actually watch Karen's talk. You can do it at BeTheTalk.com. If you don't want to type all that into YouTube, go to BeTheTalk.com. In the show notes page, we'll have a link there. We'll also have a link to Karen Salmansohn's website, which is notsalmon.com. BeTheTalk.com, not in salmon, SALMON.com. There's a little bit of inside joke about Karen's son and educating the teachers at school about the proper pronunciation of her name. So I think that was behind it. We're going to come back to Karen in just a moment with the final word of advice. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back. It's time for the final word of advice with Karen Salmansohn.
So my word of advice for people to give TED Talks, find something that you can't shut up about, that you just want to talk about all the time, and then make yourself narrow it down. But it has to be in your craw. It has actually, I tell people, they come to me for branding too, and I say to them, what would your TED Talk be? Because that's your passion. And that should be also part of your brand and part of your company. What you'd give a TED Talk about is not just important about, TED Talks. It actually says something about you and your life. And both questions go both ways. If you have a brand, what would you give a TED Talk about is also another good question.
Well, Karen Salmansohn, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Be The Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.